battery electric vehicles are getting cheaper at last. The Dacia Spring set the trend, and the Leapmotor T03 upped the features for similar money. But if you want to spend a bit more for a less bargain basement experience, Hyundai has another option. It's called the Inster, and prices start at £23,500. Is this the halfway house between budget and quality BEV buyers are looking for? Before we find out, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I posted a picture of this car on social media, including Instagram and Insta on Insta. The responses I got confirmed that its looks divide opinion. As an urban car with a little bit of a rugged image, I think it works. It is quite boxy, and this silver mouth underneath the number plate does seem a little bit unnecessary. It's definitely not a plain vanilla vehicle. These slightly flared wheel arches with black plastic edges add to the utilitarian image. The general sense is function over form, although there are plenty of design elements to prevent the Inster from looking completely like a box on wheels. I do like the way the Hyundai Inster looks, but I think I prefer the Renault 5 even more. There are three trim versions with the Inster, called the 01, the 02 and the Cross. The 01 still includes a heat pump, rear parking sensors, support for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, plus a 10.25-inch infotainment screen with connected sat-nav. The 02 adds cruise control, heated steering wheel and front seats, front parking sensors, LED lights and 17-inch wheels. The Cross adds extra features to give it an even more rugged look. It also adds additional safety features and a sunroof. There are two drivetrain choices. One partners a 97 PS motor with a 42 kWh battery and is only available with the 01 trim. Or you can go with the long-range drivetrain, which combines a 115 PS motor with a 49 kWh battery. This is an option with the 01 and the only option you have with the 02 and Cross. Optional extras include a tech pack that offers a vehicle to load and a two-tone roof, both of which cost 500 quid. You can see that this car has the two-tone roof. Natural ivory is the base colour, while solid white is £300 extra. And there's matte silver for £800, plus 4 different metallic choices for £600. This is Hyundai's metallic take on Royal Sienna, which it calls Orange Sienna, loud but not entirely obnoxious. So there are at least a few ways to personalise the outside appearance of this car. But what about the inside? Let's take a look. No, there are no choices of interior. Whether you go for the 01 or the 02, you get this black interior. And if you go for the Cross, you also get to not choose a grey interior, although that does have some coloured flashes to make it a little bit more exciting. Although these materials are more utilitarian than luxury, they are reasonably comfortable even on a longish journey. Adjustment is entirely manual, but they have a trick up their sleeve which we'll show you shortly. You don't get too much interior space. You get an armrest you can move out the way, and these cup holders are actually attached to the driver's seat so they move with the driver. There's one smaller one, one larger one. Here is a wireless charging point for a mobile phone, which is not a bad addition considering that this car is supposed to be relatively cheap. Then here you have this little ledge. You can see there is a USB-C and a regular USB plug there. There they are. And then there's a 12-volt power adapter underneath a cover in the middle. There is a small cubby here, but not really enough for any kind of bag. You'll have to just put that loose here in the middle. Then there's this reasonably sized glove compartment as well. So not too bad in terms of space. You can see there's a large book and some documentation in there already, and still maybe room for a couple of gloves. Since this car has a tech pack option, you get this 250 volts and 16 amps plug inside, which can deliver up to 3.6 kilowatts. I thought I'd make a cup of tea. I am British after all. While that's brewing, let's take a look in the bag. You'll see that the opener for the rear door is similar to a Zoe and the new Renault 5, and actually quite a decent amount of space. However, let's bear in mind that this is the 02, which has a trick up its sleeve. You can see I, as an average sized man sitting behind myself, an average sized man, have got a decent amount of knee room. So even if I was 6 foot sitting behind a 6 foot me, that'd probably be okay. And the headroom isn't too bad. You can see even with the extra fluff on the top of my head, still plenty of room. So again, a 6 footer would be okay. However, the keen-eyed amongst you will also have noticed that there are actually only 2 seats in the rear. So this is a 4-seat car, not a 5-seat car. It's not the only car like that. The Leapmotor T03 has a similar problem. And if you're a small family with just a couple of kids, not necessarily a problem. But it does reduce the flexibility. However, something that increases the flexibility is that you can actually move these rear seats forward. which will increase the amount of capacity at the back. That's at the expense of knee room. You see my knees are now right up against the seat in front. So this will be good if you've got kids, but adults are going to feel a bit cramped. You do get ISOFIX on both those rear seats, so you can add child car chairs. However, rear seat passengers don't get any kind of air conditioning vents, so they're going to have to just use the windows to adjust their temperature. There are also no seat back pockets for your kids to put their copies of anything, or whatever it is kids read these days. With a car as small as the Inster, you really can't avoid having a limited amount of boot space. With the 01, which has a fixed rear seat bench, the total is 280 litres, and that includes this bit of space underneath, which is great for putting your cables in at least. With the bench all the way back on the 02 and Cross, you get even less at 238 litres. But if you then move those seats forward, you can see it's got a lot bigger. This is 351 litres, which isn't actually that far behind the Volkswagen ID3. This blind is just clips in. You can see it clips here, and then it actually is clipped into the headrests. So you have to get rid of those as well. And then when it lifts out, which isn't so difficult, there is the space. So then we can drop these rear seats forward. Now we've got 1,059 litres, which is a lot more respectable. It's still less than the MG4, but that's a bigger car than the Inster. But we did say there were further tricks, and one of these is the ability to drop the front seat forward as well. I don't know quite what the capacity is now, but you can see you can fit a really long item in the back of this car, which is pretty impressive for such a small vehicle. If you pop off the headrest on the driver's side, you can even drop that forward too, although it's not going to be particularly good for driving. Now you see an absolutely enormous space. You could actually fit a mattress in here and sleep in the Inster if you wanted to, which we think is one of the reasons why they did this, because, well, you can see what's happened to the driver's seat. While you're still not going to be moving wardrobes around in the Inster, that flexibility, which is only available with the 02 and the Cross, really makes this a very viable and useful car. This is still primarily aimed at the city, but it won't be confined to the city like some other small EVs we've reviewed. Even the basic 42 kilowatt-hour car offers a WLTP range of 203 miles. The 49 kilowatt-hour battery increases that to 229 miles with a 15-inch wheels and 223 miles with the 17-inch wheels. During my testing, I managed about 5.1 miles per kilowatt hour if I was driving fairly soberly, and that dropped to 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour if I'd stuck it in sport mode and really rammed my foot on the accelerator. If you can avoid excessive speed, you can probably get 200 miles out of this 49 kilowatt hour car pretty easily. DC charging is not that fast, however. With the bigger battery you get 85 kilowatts, and if you get the smaller battery that drops to a miserly 73 kilowatts. That means either one takes half an hour to charge from 10 to 80%. Long distance driving is possible with the Inster, but you will need to stop regularly and plan carefully. The general controls are all fairly standard round steering wheel. You'll notice that on the left you've got some controls for the cruise control, and if we switch to the right, that's general media, voice commands, operating your phone. On the left here is the control for the lights, and this paddle here actually changes regeneration levels and invokes the iPedal mode, which is a decent single pedal driving option, but it doesn't come on automatically. Even if you've selected it with your previous drive, it keeps turning off every time you cycle the power. On the right, behind the paddle to drop the regeneration back down, is a standard windscreen wiper stick. Underneath that is a fairly similarly shaped extra stick which operates drive, neutral, reverse, and if you press a button on the end, park. These two stalks are rather close together, and I have accidentally put the windscreen wipers on instead of going into reverse when parking. There's a conventional button for turning the car on and off, and it will bleat at you if you haven't turned it off when you exit the car. There's a conventional looking but actually entirely digital instrumentation panel behind the steering wheel. If you happen to be somebody who really hates how air conditioning has all gone into the LCD panel, you'll appreciate the fact that on the Inster everything is here in individual buttons, and if you turn it on you can see that it actually tells you separately what the temperature is. I'll turn it off again because it makes quite a lot of noise. And as this is a 02, it's got heated seats, lovely. Not quite sure what these other buttons will be for. Maybe they have a ventilated seat version, who knows. That means that the infotainment screen is primarily used for infotainment. This row of buttons here along the bottom change the function, so if I press that one, it will call up the map. So this is kind of the standard screen. You'll see it's got a sat nav function, tells you where your battery's at. If you press on that, you can actually see where your location is and save it. If I hit the nav button down below, that will actually brings up the interface so I can search for destination. Not a bad little sat nav, works reasonably well. It is connected, so it therefore has traffic. And if we then go, you can see this radio, that will come on.
Those young people have, and what kind of...
I'm so middle class, it's Radio 4. There are media options as well. You can see there that it has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay support, which is handy. You may well want that in a car with more limited functions like this. If you go into the setup screen, you get all these icons. One thing we'll say is that this infotainment screen does take a little while to start up, but once it's going, it's reasonably responsive. You can see all the different utility mode. That's kind of useful. AC charging current. This is potentially useful. It means that the Inster can act like a Tesla and automatically enroll you when you plug it in for charging, but that's only compatible with certain charging networks. It's quite useful that you can set different limits for DC and AC, so you could, for example, always charge to 100% when you're at home, but when you're out and about, set that to 80%. So overall, it's a simple but reasonably effective 10.2-inch screen, and not a bad inclusion for a car at this price level. The 42 kilowatt-hour car takes a pedestrian 11.7 seconds to reach 62 miles per hour, and the 49 kilowatt-hour model only drops us a little bit to 10.6 seconds. Being an EV though, it does feel nippier than that off the line in town, but you notice the lack of power, particularly when trying to accelerate at highway speeds. Still, the short wheelbase makes it extremely manoeuvrable about town, and handling isn't that bad on windy A roads either. It does lack presence at highway speeds, but doesn't feel jittery. The ride is a little hard over bumps, but there's plenty of composure without too much bounce. Overall, this is a competent car about town. The Inster may be an affordable car, but it doesn't skimp on safety features. It doesn't have an Euro NCAP rating yet, but with all the technology, it should score highly. Even the basic 01 incorporates forward collision avoidance assist and lane keeping assist. There's rear occupant assist and parking collision avoidance assist, which is great if you're backing out of a parking space. You also get blind spot view monitoring, parking distance warning, and a rear view parking camera, so that's a pretty good package for a basic car. With the 02, you also get front parking sensors and a 360-degree view. This also adds adaptive cruise and lane follow assist. That's not quite as good as a proper self-driving style highway control, but it will keep you safe while driving on the highway. If you want more elaborate self-driving, the Cross has Hyundai Smart Sense, which is the company's self-driving capability, or such as it is so far. So that has cruise control, but it has highway drive assist, which gives you more autonomy and a bit more self-steering when you're on highways. The blind spot detection will also include a camera view, which we first saw on the Ioniq 5 when that came out a couple of years ago. That's going to be really useful to stop you pulling out or turning across a car that's in your blind spot. Overall, you're not sacrificing safety despite the keen price of this car, whichever version you choose. So how much exactly is the Hyundai Inster? Well, we've already mentioned that it starts at £23,505 for the 01. It's only £1,550 more if you go for the larger battery with that particular version. Then the 02 starts at £26,755. And then the Cross is £2,000 more than that. So the Inster is not a budget option like the Dacia Spring or Leapmotor T03, but it does undercut even very keenly priced options like the MG4 SE. The most direct competition comes from the Renault 5 or Citroën EC3. The Renault 5 provides a bit more space and a lot more power for similar money. However, it is more cramped for rear seat passengers, so your choice will depend on your priorities. The Inster also comes with Hyundai's excellent warranty, which is 5 years for unlimited miles for the whole car. The high voltage battery has a pretty standard 8-year, 100,000 mile warranty. Overall, the 02 feels like the sweet spot for price and features across the range, so that's the one I'd recommend. It's great to see a lot more affordable EV offerings arriving on the market. Although the Inster doesn't have a rock bottom price, the range and features aren't bargain basement either. This is a well thought out small electric car from Hyundai with plenty of character. The Hyundai Inster 02 in particular comes highly recommended if you're looking for an affordable and versatile small electric city runabout. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel.